So I've been asked to address two things: what and who are contingent and adjunct faculty are, and how the adjunct crisis exploits not only labor, but most importantly students, who at bottom are the ones who are paying the most for our educational crises across the nation and in the state at both the K-12 and higher ed levels. And they're only going to pay more as the crisis worsens and tuition increases, which is already the plan for North Carolina. Roughly 75% of faculty in this nation and rising are contingent faculty. That means they are not tenured or in line to obtain it. Translation: the bulk of professors have less job security and make less money, but have more teaching loads and heavier teaching loads than the other 25%. The stigma about contingent faculty is that they're somehow not as good as their tenured counterparts, but the fact is they're just not as privileged and don't have the same perks. And despite the word in the hallowed halls of academia, it's certainly not just a matter of what degree you hold or where you went. Right now, only about 50% of PhDs from the top schools end up with a tenure opportunity anywhere. Pretending the situation is otherwise is impractical and, quite frankly, unrealistic. I call it ostriching because it's like burying your head in the sand. At ECU, as virtually everywhere, contingent faculty do the bulk of the teaching. Now here at ECU, where we are called fixed-term faculty, or FTF, we are better off than our quote-unquote adjunct colleagues. We have full-time loads and benefits, most of the time, though the guarantee of future employment leaves something to be desired. Contracts may be multi-year, 1 year, or semester to semester. I've been here 7 years, I've had all of these more than once. But they're inconsistent. Sometimes come late, and sometimes professors have not even been paid into the semester we're teaching.
Yes.
Supposedly, ECU has not been able to afford it sometimes, but what they really mean is we already spent the money elsewhere, and it was not for our least paid, mostly teaching faculty or the majority of our students. The plight of adjuncts is indeed worse. They're part-time professors without benefits who might cobble together classes at various different universities to try to earn a living, but it's not much of a living. For instance, at Pitt, adjuncts earn only about $1,500 a course. That's $6,000 a semester, people, or $12,000 a year if they can't get summer classes. Adjuncts cannot count on benefits, including health insurance, though it should be noted that some contingent faculty here still don't have it and have only secured it recently and had to labor like hell to get it. Now, I've heard all kinds of, let's call them pretty imaginative ideas from various quarters about why we precious few are supporting adjuncts, since ECU doesn't really have that many, especially in our department. At bottom, tenured and contingent faculty standing up for adjunct faculty down the road and across the state and nation is not about getting more for us, though I'm sure FTF would prefer more job security. It's about standing up for adjuncts, students, and what we might as well call the adjunctification of the university. We're all being asked to do more and more with less and less. I get that. But why the bottom tier of teachers and students are being the ones asked to sacrifice the most just does not make good logical or financial sense. Used this one before. It's sort of like owing the bank 10 grand and rearranging your pennies to address the problem. It's a losing proposition. I'm not debating that the budget is a numbers game. My mom's a retired accounting professor. But when 3 fixed-term faculty had to go in our department last week, that dismissal immediately affected the 225 students they're teaching right now. In theory, the advance notice is helpful. These 3 will not be back, so the professors can look for other jobs this summer and fall. But in practice, it demoralized them. So they're no longer as effective as they just were. Could you continue to put forth the same effort if you knew that's how much you were valued, meaning not at all? Would you? If not, those 225 students just got shortchanged. Here's what we know. Tuition's going up again, and this fall, in our department, at least, though I bet we're not alone, there may have to be other cuts of FTF and the required classes that we teach. No one knows those numbers yet. It depends on which and how many students sign up for what when. But given that the FTF teaching load in our department's going back to normal, 4 classes of 25 students each, and we're being told to anticipate more cuts, the new equation's more like 1 professor per 100 students. So if 10 professors have to go, that's 1,000 students that just got affected. They might get lucky and end up with a tenured professor who wants to be there, or with a graduate student or a TA learning to teach and studying to be a professor. It is what it is. That's how I learned to teach, how a lot of my colleagues learned to teach. But regardless of how, most of those students will also, like the 225 I'm talking about now, find themselves a budget casualty. Maybe with a devalued and demoralized instructor, or they may have to take that course some other time, or they might not get to, okay? But the outcome's pretty much the same. Most of those students will get shortchanged somehow. In a word, they'll get adjuncted. That's what adjunct means. Devaluing it is what it means to be an adjunct. And that's why we're standing up for them. And not to sound too radical, but maybe universities in this state and in this country, and right here at ECU, could do with less administration and more on actual instruction. Maybe they could value education more than exploitation. This is all about starting that conversation, rethinking our budget priorities, and doing more for our students rather than fighting over dwindling resources for our colleagues. Pay teachers more to better empower our students. Don't cheapen their education as you make them pay more. That's it.
Thank you, Sean.